Pretty bright. Let me see if I can fix that. I probably can. Hello, anybody who's here. I think there was one person uh, in the mix. Let me see. There's a way to make myself look more. There. I'm more human. I'm so human. Hello. Hello. Nobody. Oh, wait, there's two people in the room. Hello. I wonder who you are. Say hello if you get a chance. Of course, it's the sometimes right Rev Walt. Great to hear you. It looks like it takes an hour for everyone else to show. Um, yes, I suppose that's true. And also, people don't have to show. And also, sometimes they show up days later and catch the review. That is, they can see the recording. Hello, anybody who's got anything they want to talk about, we can talk about that thing. That anything you want to talk about. I was looking back over the week. Just in review, one of the nice things about my practice, such as it is that I capture ideas as they come by, as they fly by in thought. I've been doing that for decades now. That is, I get maybe in a minute to hold on to an idea. So if I capture it while it's floating by, I get to keep it and follow up on it. I mostly record those things onto Facebook, and I'm looking back over this week, and there was a lot. There was a lot this week, a lot of ideas. I'm not saying they're good, but there sure were a lot, and part of it was inspired by my enthusiasm, my almost revved out nature in the last conversation. So I'll start by just capturing some of the things that I played with this week. And in the meantime, if there's anyone who wants to run anything by me, their ideas would be a good thing. For example, Rev Walt, if you had some notion this week that that floated to mind, don't have to agree with it. I don't always agree with my ideas. I make a point of being able to disagree, to make a counter argument to any one of my ideas. But if you've got an idea that came to you this week, the fun of this work is being able to generate new ideas and evaluate them. Evaluate, just generate and evaluate. My particular satisfaction comes from feeling like I entered a boomtown. There are ways in which my work generates and regenerates. I don't have a problem coming up with new ideas. They're mostly combinatorial ideas. That is, I mix and match ideas. Here's a couple that I came up with this week. A few. There were dozens, actually. The 2024 election was a U.S. stress test, a referendum on whether we could tolerate even a little sacrifice to continue making progress towards living up to our nation's declared ideals. The answer was a resounding no. People voted against any more sacrifice to make we, the people all created equal, more true. Hell, an uptick in egg prices turned the majority of us into pearl-clutching clutch of chicken littles, into a pearl-clutching clutch of chicken littles. We didn't pass the stress test. Donald Taco won, and here's the kicker. He presents himself as a Moses Jesus Churchill who will take the country through unprecedented hardships to the land of great again milk and honey, like we're ready for 40 years in the desert. His poll numbers have been another stress test. When he first announced the Liberation Day tariffs, his approval plummeted to negative 10%. So Taco backed off on the tariffs. Neither we nor he could handle the stress. So picture this, Trump and 45% of us, the most chicken little chickens this country has ever known, are betting they'd win a game of chicken against China and Russia and with shithole countries. After all they've been through, as if we'd be willing to tighten our belts and hold out for a better deal with Taco Boy at the helm. We're a nation of wimps about to get whooped beyond our wildest nightmares. So that was one thought. There's another. I spent a lot more time last week on credonomics, this idea that there are cred wars that have been driving all philosophical thought since the beginning of writing. Who's right? By what standard? How would you know who is biased and who isn't biased? Cred wars. So my credo is more realistic than yours. Oh, you're just biased. No, you are. I know you are, but I know, but what are you? I know that I know what's true, but what are you? That kind of thing. Credonomics, the cutthroat, unbiasedder than thou competition for credibility. Very much on my mind this last week. Here's another term. These were all from Saturday. Because I was high flying bare naked out the window, buzzing off of the quality of the ideas that I was playing with in the last YouTube live. Homoheterophobia. Fear of discovering that we're like those we insist that we're unlike. Fear of discovering commonalities with those we insist are different. Includes but not limited to sexuality. For example, men fearing being feminine. More generally, saying, I'd hate to be like them, and then discovering you are. To overcome homoheterophobia, practice wearing your enemy's shoes and remembering when they were yours. All right, so there was that. I put out a video, I think it was on Sunday morning, about loving others to love yourself. This one ended up being an important one to me this week. And it was based on wisdom I felt I gleaned from my ex-wife. At one point, as our marriage was falling apart, this is about 35 years ago, she said, you don't love me, you love what I represent. And I denied it at the time, but I came to realize that she was actually right and perfectly entitled to decide that wasn't worth sticking around for. A few years after we divorced, I asked her about a standard she held me to, but she didn't hold her new husband to. And I didn't ask in a griping way. I just want to understand. And she said something that I found profound. Not at first. I mean, at first I thought, yeah, it's interesting. But last week it hit me. She said, I don't fall in love for how the other person feels to me. I fall in love for how I feel about myself with the other person. This was, if you can imagine the difficulty of being married to me, there were times towards the end of our relationship when I was trying to win her enthusiasm for me by outsmarting her in conversations. So I thought that I could actually make her want to be with me. You can hear me fine, right? That I could make her want to be with me more by proving that I was smarter than her in conversation. That is not how love works. That was really stupid. And yet I think it's kind of typical. So if you're trying to maintain a relationship, it's a lot about making the other person helping the other person feel good in your company. And if you're wondering what you partner for, I mean, you hear it in all sorts of kind of obvious conventional folk psychology assumptions. What is a trophy wife? What is arm candy? It's a way of feeling good about yourself. It shows up certainly in relationship to the Trumpists. They say they love the United States or they love patriotism or Christianity. I think they love how they feel about themselves by declaring that love. You could say it's kind of a basic aspect of the feedback of a romantic relationship. If you're both, it's a mutual admiration society. What are you in there for? You're in there for what I called years ago endorphment, the endorphin rush of being endorsed. And I came up with this years ago, but I came up with the Book of Love in 5 chapters, and I'll recite them to you now. There's character aspiration, there's character affirmation, there's character assignation, there's character assassination, and then there's character extrication. You think they think better arm candy? Yes, that's a good point, Rev. Ozzy, it's all the front, even though some of them might believe in their delusional reality. Yes, Chris Farley, and at the same time, I want to understand how it is. I don't want to disdain it from the outside. I want to understand what's going on for them. And like I was just talking about with this homoheterophobia, I want to recognize the part of me that's like them. One of the things I was prolific with this week, putting out at least one a day, was these magnificent Mike videos. They're getting an okay response on YouTube. They're getting more of a response on TikTok. The first time I've been on TikTok, many people are confused by what I'm doing with those videos. I apparently they're my forte. It's not hard for me to put them out. It doesn't take a bunch of rehearsals. They're basically me attempting to express what the Trumpists are doing that they don't know they're doing. They wouldn't want to know that they're doing, but to express it with the earnestness of a Trumpist and not winking at my audience as if I'm making fun of them. I'm not talking down to them, is what I'm trying to do. And one of the signs of success is how many people I've confused with them. It's real method acting. I'm really talking from their earnestness. And people think, wait, is this guy parodying or not? They're trying to make sense of that. Let's see. So I'm back to this thing about the book of love in 5 chapters. Character affirmation. I would like to see myself reflected in a beautiful woman's eyes, let's say, or a beautiful partner's eyes. Character affirmation. Someone comes along and affirms me. So I wanted to be affirmed. I got affirmed. Character assignation. I assign to that person the authority to judge me since they're judging me so affirmingly. Character assassination, they finally see that I'm a human being and annoying half the time. So that's where they start to not see me as their hero. And therefore, I'm losing the affirmation. Character extrication is, all right, now I put myself in this weird position where I've assigned someone credibility because they were affirming me, and now they're not affirming me. They've just assassinated my character. Either that means that I was a bad judge of character to assign them that authority, or that I was a good judge of character and they're right. I'm not the God I wish I was. So understand, this is a book of love in 5 chapters. Character aspiration, character affirmation, character assignation. That is, you assign someone the credibility. This person is credible because they affirm me. Character assassination, character extrication. To apply it to politics, this is kind of what Elon Musk is going to have to do now. He's got to figure out, okay, well, I mean, they had a mutual admiration society. Hey, love you too. I do. I swear. I mean, I am losing. It's like a 21,500 subscribers. I'm losing them at about 100 a month. I'm wondering if I'm doing something wrong. It also could be that I'm doing something right. I don't want to take refuge in pious failure. I don't want to pretend it's pearls before swine. I'm wondering about my audience and how much to care. And then I realized this morning, don't run on hope. Hope is an unreliable fuel. Run on curiosity and productivity. So I got really interested this morning in the AI tools that will do a better job than I can at ornamenting the videos for spread. As long as I want the confirmation of thoroughness about my work. I want to know that I'm doing my best as custodian of these ideas. That is, as someone passing them along, I don't want to do a half-assed job of it. But if my audience shrinks, that's got to be okay. That's got to be fine with me. There was an interesting interaction this week with someone. Oh, yeah, I had an interaction with someone this week where I was thinking about, never mind that. Anyway, I want to come back to this thing about slov, love, and plov. So that was another thought that came to me this week, towards the end of the week. Two of those terms I'd had for a while. I had my last girlfriend, the one that really taught me that I wasn't good for it anymore. I mean, this was a partnership that was almost a cartoon caricature of everything that was consistently wrong about me partnering with anyone. I'm way too mouthy, just way too mouthy. And I'm okay with that. I don't want to keep on having to bite my tongue, especially to meet a particular person's standards. It wasn't worth it to me. I've long said, yeah, it's been 10 years. I've said, I'm glad that my lack of appetite finally caught up with my lack of aptitude. But with her, I did try the distinction between fluv and plov. So flov was the feeling, the excitement of falling in love. Plov was the policy, promise, or pledge of love. They're different. And we tried for a while the thing where you don't say I love you to each other. This is, there are whole cultures where it's absurd to say I love you. Love is something you show. It's not something you declare. That's just lip service. And in my relationships in general, it got to a point where we started out with all the enthusiasm of love, the feeling of love. And then it became really about plov, the policy of love. And then it became kind of rote. And one of the problems with that is it's a lousy canary in the coal mine. You can keep on saying I love you in response to the other person saying I love you long after the love is there. Love is gone. So it's actually a little dangerous. Yeah, you say I love you right up to the end. And it does relate to another thought that's been on my mind, not this week, but it's been on my mind in the past. What I call the try-buy paradox. Imagine a partnership in which you've been saying I love you to each other, and then one person says, I realize I don't really love you. That feels outrageous on the intake side. You said you loved me. Where the fuck are you? You said you loved me. The try-buy dichotomy is this. It's a paradox, which is you cannot really try it until you've bought it. And you can't buy it until you've tried it. You don't want to buy a relationship until you've tried it out, but you can't really try it unless you've bought it. So there's a way in which you kind of have to say, I love you to each other to see if you do. And you might find out that you don't. Anyway, the third one, slov, just came to me this week as the obvious complement to it. I love you is I love myself. It's self-love in your company. And then I map them onto the 6 relationships that I see in any partnership. This would also include the partnership of Trumpists with MAGA. That I love you, you love me. I love me, you love you. I love us, you love us. And I think I can actually map that onto something fundamental about interpretation. Interpretation is, origins of life like interpretation. It's byness, forness, and aboutness, which are terms in philosophy for what goes on with interpretation. So there are no signs in the physical world. There's only interpretation of things as significant. Significant how? Well, it's significant for someone, an interpreter, about something in their circumstances, and their response to it. That is what they're going to do in response to whatever they interpret. I won't go into it here, but I have a feeling that flov, plov, and slov, the I love you, I love me, I love us, will map onto that. That's a later conversation. This is what I mean, though. There's a kind of a combinatorial explosion that is available to any of us once you start playing with ideas in this framing. It's a different framing. It's the one I picked up from Terry, and I love how it makes for 3 things that I have found very useful and satisfying in my life. Pattern sensuality. That is, I love to find patterns. I'm looking for overall patterns. Pattern discernment, figuring out which are real patterns and which ones are not. I have this good friend of mine. He was once a client who loves to tease. Yeah, I can't help but see a pattern. He means there really are patterns out there, because there are. And at the same time, he also means that he's helpless not to see them, even if there aren't. And then pattern fluency is what I'm talking about. This conversation we're having here is all about pattern fluency. That is, by now, I got all these patterns, and I've been collecting them. They could be crap. I'm not singing my praises that way. I'm saying this is fucking fun, because I have all these patterns to play with, and they have a kind of grounding. They're not like a hodgepodge of feel-good patterns. They're all grounded in this approach, this non-engineering approach to explaining what organisms really are. And then to get to jam with Terry, I took an hour and a half walk this morning with him. We were up to our necks and elbows into some interesting technical issues, and then to come and talk to you guys like this. It's my birthday on Monday. I turned 69. I just feel incredibly lucky to get to do this with myself and with anybody who will join me. Um, and so here we are. Okay, so let me take a look at these comments here and see what's going on. There were more things. Here's an example of something else I wrote last week, and then I'm going to look at the comments. Hedonists for social responsibility just announced that they're willing to fuck and marry anyone for much needed kill credits. Just I love capturing shit like that. Hedonists for social responsibility just announced that they're willing to fuck and marry anyone for the much needed kill credits. All right, let's see what we got here. Okay, mic check, good. I'm glad mic check. It's all the front, even though some of them might believe it in their delusional reality. Chris Farley, I want to suggest something. I never talk about them believing or thinking anything. I do not think, I think we have to do better with those terms like believe and think. They're not really, they're very vague. It's a feeling thing. And that's what I'm trying to convey in those magnificent Mike videos. It's just to keep that feeling alive. Oh yeah, the AI, yeah, I'll see about that. Thank you, Rev. Trump's basically pulling Elon's hand out of the cookie jar because he wants what's left for himself. I think it's gotten quite complicated. For one thing, I read the Nate Silver about it the other day. He says actually Trump may have the upper hand here. Obviously, there's a question. I would not give Elon Musk credit for actually wanting to keep the deficit down. I don't think that's probably it. I wouldn't be surprised if it's more about he didn't get the bargains that he wanted out of the process. Let's see. But I'm agnostic. We're working at a level that's beyond any of us to completely understand. And one of the things about when you've got the kind of power these guys have, you can turn anything into a win. That's what they've done. They're no longer playing a game. They're gaming the play. Because they have this much power, they simply can turn anything into a win, which is one of the reasons why they can afford to be so sloppy. When you can do no wrong, you get to do lots of wrong. Raise your hand if you've been feeling it. Right, it's pigeon chess. It's also one-dimensional chess. It's just vertical, me up, you down. That's all that's going on. Yeah. No rules apply other than I have to win. One thought that has been on my mind this week is, and this came from interactions with Trumpists, including one-on-one interactions. I made this into a video that hasn't, it's not been published yet. It's another magnificent Mike one. If we're in debate, you and me, and I'm an asshole, and I'm feeling the least bit threatened with the possibility that I'm going to lose, I simply switch to umpire. I'm now the judge of who wins or loses. So in a way, I've known this pattern for a long time. I've called it trumpiring. That is, you trump by playing ump. It's when you're losing the game fair and square and you say no fair. And then you come out, you pull out. It's sort of loser stuff. But I think there's something useful to recognizing that they'll play as if to win, and then they will switch to umpire. It's frame dominance at the point where they're at any risk. And then they declare themselves winner. Happy early birthday. You know what I have planned for that day? I have nothing planned. I might take a long walk. Recently, I've rediscovered the Marin Redwoods. So I live near Marin County. I used to live in that area. My folks moved there from Chicago, and I lived with them there. The redwoods are astonishing, and what I've been doing lately is really my favorite activity when I'm not talking. Is I listen to books. I speed listen to books while walking. It's been delightful. Oh, by the way, I'm doing just fine on staying dry. I haven't gotten stoned. I'm off of nicotine. I'm kind of amazed how fast that happened. I assumed it was going to be a harder go than it was. It hasn't been hard. At times, I think we've been culturally manipulated to want this in love thing, but maybe the better goal is best friends. Seems it's different kind of. Well, you're onto something that's very important to me. If you get a chance, I wrote a song years ago called "All That's Left Is Love." Um, All That's Left Is Love is a song that lists all the things we used to count on relationship for, and then says that we've put a whole lot of weight on sex and romance um, because they're the only things holding it together. Uh, it's not exactly true. There's also all the hormonal certainty, biological reproductive success, but I have found the hard way that I can have much greater intimacy in friendship than in love. As you really have to walk on eggshells and watch out for landmines when you're in partnership. Um, and no, I'm not sure that's true of everyone. And I'm going to my daughter's wedding in a few months, and all of my children and my ex-wife are remarried and happily so. And when I see them together, sometimes it's one of the only times I ever feel like a third-wheeled odd cog for not being partnered. But other than that, I don't miss it. And even best friends doesn't best safe friends is interesting to me. So there's a difference between fast friends, that is friends for life, that is you're held fast together, and making friends fast. In a way, I think I'm much more interested in making friends fast. That's why I err on the side of trying to get us into honest human interaction as fast as possible. Trying to get as informal. What the Jewish term for it is hamish. Hamish means you let your hair down, you can relax. We're going to be human together. I find that the safest and most intimate place to be. And it doesn't always work. There are lots of people who find it extremely unsafe to be around me. But in a way, I don't mind the stress testing. And if I notice it, I pull right back. I don't want to, I don't want to be, I don't want to wear out my welcome with those who I trouble. But I want to, it's like you meet someone and you try to tickle out the human juice with them as fast as possible. It's where the irony plays for me and where I'm not drawn to the formalities of language as much. What they call it book. It's a wonderful book by a guy named Brian Christian called The Most Human. I think Most Human. I think I've mentioned it before, probably in the study group. It's a guy who won the Turing Prize for the most human. That is, how do you convince a stranger who you're talking to online that you're not a bot, that you're a human? And in it, he talks about the role played by book. Book is what they call the opening moves in chess. That is the standard, hi, how are you? I'm fine, that kind of thing. Those moves, I get out of them as quick as I can. And some people think that it's impolite. And I wrote this week also, just related to that. Uh, almost there. Wow, there was a lot. Let's see. Some people are merely polite. Let's see. I'm looking for it. Just a second. Good Lord, Jeremy. Let's see. Sorry. Uh, some people. Some people are merely polite, not conscientious, wise, thoughtful, introspective, or considerate. Just polite. That is not my people. Here's a couple other things I wrote this week, just in passing, and then I'm coming back to the list. Christianity, USA, Israel. The meek inherit the earth by first gaining trust, sympathy, then becoming total a-holes. Fat chance that anyone who inherits the earth, it's a fat chance that anyone who inherits the earth remains meek. How about this one? Given recursion, those who overreact to the lessons of history are forced to repeat them. That one intrigued me. I'm all on recursion these days. So, reading is about what I call oversteps in the right direction. So overcorrections. He who's burnt by hot milk blows on ice cream. The quantity of times in history where someone has a major aversion to one lifestyle brand and ends up producing basically the same problems in the opposite lifestyle brand, what I call a counter cult. You've got cults and then you've got counter cults. So libertarian as a counter cult to communism, classic example, and communism as a counter cult to capitalism. Just reading some of that history this week, just amazing. Um, how we keep on doing that. We respond to one kind of absoluteness with its opposite kind, and we keep on cycling through absolutisms that don't work. Anyway, let me see. At times, I think, yeah. So, uh, CLTM. I don't know what your full name is, and it's fine. But let me just say, think about this. Think about the combination of culturally manipulated and hormonally manipulated. It's a really interesting pairing. Early on in this work, I got very interested in evolutionary psychology, and a lot of it is about um, uh, that we were these mid-sized mammals that had all of the appetites that mammals had, and then we created culture. And there was a question about what they call dual inheritance. Like there's cultural manipulation, but there's also all the biological biases that we've got. In general, evolutionary psychology paid more attention to the biological origins of our appetites. Um, and that was exciting and interesting to me at a time when my marriage was breaking up and I was dealing with a lot of sexual jealousy. And I was trying to explain to myself why it felt so intense to me. And there was a kind of a don't panic, it's organic. You're going crazy because men aren't supposed to feel okay about their spouses going off and being with someone else, what they call mother's baby, father's maybe. Fathers, the biological argument is that men would freak out on the thought that they are investing male parental investment in someone else's offsprings. It was those kinds of ideas. I mean, it became a whole fascination for me and actually became the springboard. Its answers were the springboards to my next questions. But at the time, it was like they were saying, okay, well, what factors in evolutionary biology contribute to human nature? And pretty soon it had become, this is what happens as we move towards a kind of absoluteness, is it became everything was explained in terms of biological reproductive success. Um, what I call insight overreach. So that became a problem for me. But in the meantime, it was fascinating. And I still think in those terms. Uh, Culturally manipulated, biologically manipulated. I don't think I can parse them very well. I actually think cultural was a bigger influence on me. I don't think I stayed as horny as I claimed or thought I did. I think I was mostly after endorphin. I wanted the reassurance. I wanted arm candy. I wanted trophy wife. I wanted the affirmation. I wanted the slove. I wanted to feel good about myself um, by being well embraced. I think some of it was also Oedipal. Um, but not biologically. I mean, I'm just talking about what it's like to be a human being, what it's like to be a man. Um, which it is useful for us to check in with each other about what it's like to have come through different hormonal versions of things. This would include male, female, LGBTQ, everything. It's almost like comparing notes at the end of the game. It's like a debriefing that I am capable of doing now that I'm no longer zooming for a partner so much. I can talk about, yeah, in retrospect, a lot of it was cultural. Um, Freud said that the object of the game of life is to um, sublimate. That's the word he used, sublimate your libido into love and work. Um, Sublimate, basically to channel all that libido. Yeah, hormones do a lot. Uh, and and what I was paying attention to was the reverse sublimation, that I was channeling my work frustrations and my love frustrations into a kind of horniness. Um, that is, it was about my personal anxiety. It was a source of reassurance for me to be loved. And that's so maybe a lot of my work is autobiographical that way, but I think that I could extrapolate from me to other people. Um, this self-love thing is it's about reassurance. And I keep on coming back to this about us. It's humans need a lot of reassurance that other organisms wouldn't need because they can't imagine all the shit we can imagine. Um, so yeah, I'm trying to honor our need for reassurance and manage it better. And um, you've heard me, if you've heard me before, you've heard me make parallels between all sorts of activities we engage in, I think, for reassurance. Egotainment. Tain, e, Entertainment is to stretch out. That's the origins of it. Egotainment is basically fluffing ourselves up, making us feel bigger than we otherwise would because we get beat down a lot. Not even just externally, we get beat down by the thoughts we can think. Um, uh, yeah, I mean, how do you keep them at bay? How do you build your confidence knowing that your mojo is being depleted? Not knowing, but your mojo being depleted all day long through thoughts, through everything. What are you going to do to reaffirm that? I draw parallels between masturbation and church. I would also draw parallels between masturbation and marriage. I don't I, I don't think any of these are bad. I think they're all necessary. I think they all need to be managed. It's how you do them that matters. It's fun to have fun, but you got to know how, says the Cat in the Hat. I think that's what it's about. Or Stevie Wonder saying everybody's got a thing, but some don't know how to handle it. The trick is how to handle it. Um, and how to invest in the right insert size, the stuff that's going to affirm you, the stuff that's going to confirm you well enough to help you through life and not throw you way off. I think that's probably what the manage and exercise it thing is like. And I have had recent conversations with people who are still trying to transcend their ego, transcend their need for affirmation, to become in effect Buddhist or selfless. I just don't have any faith in it anymore. I don't see any evidence that people actually do that. It would be like trying to wean yourself off of food or water. I think we need the reassurance we can get, all, and that we tend to take any we can get. Um, anyway, there's some thoughts. Anybody got any? I'm reading closely here. There was something at the end of the last presentation, the last YouTube live that I missed. If anybody's got anything you want us to explore. By the way, the only reason I'm still using this incredibly indulgent medium where I'm talking nonstop and you guys don't get to talk and interject, this is like a really dangerous thing for a guy like me, a man deeply prone to tunnel vision monologue reveries, a guy who founded Toastmasters Anonymous for people who admitted they were addicted to talking. The only reason we're doing this is because you haven't emailed me and said, let's start a Zoom conversation. Um, put me on the email list for a Zoom conversation. We do have the study group tomorrow. I want to invite you all in. If you're not part of it already, come join us. This is a really interesting group. It's been going on for a while now. These are people who get together and study what we can do to engage with people there's no talking to. The law is the promise of justice. Okay, good. Rambling is great. Takes you places you weren't expecting. That's right. That's right. Yeah, I am my own Walkman, and I can get some momentum going. And this is, yeah, the main reason. Probably a couple of reasons I should mention why I'm no longer partnered. Part of it is my hearing. I've lost a lot of hearing, and that's hard. And then oh good, I'm glad I'm playing in the background. That's right. Let me be background music, William. That's where I belong. But part of it is that my mind is full like this nonstop. This is where I ended up living. I didn't, I don't remember choosing it, but I worried that I'd end up here. It really scared the shit out of me. That as my marriage was breaking up, it dawned on her and me that I could end up being the perpetual student. And it was not impressive to her. And I was trying to impress her, and it scared me, the thought that I'd end up like this. Um, I love it. God, does it feel like just a lucky thing to get to do with your life, to just keep on thinking it up a notch and thinking in different directions, and to have people to do it with. It feels lucky. Um, and boy, do I commend her for feeling lucky to have gotten out of it. It's not for everybody. Not everybody would want to ramble like I do. Okay, let's see. Let's see. How should organized religion wrangle the ego? This is Anne Sands E. This is a great question. I love that question. So here's a fundamental premise I'm working from, and how it feeds into your question. How should organized religion wrangle the ego? The problem with any virtue, anything we associate with virtue, is that once it becomes fully associated with virtue, it becomes great cover for vice. So Christianity is a good example of that. It's reached full saturation. If you're talking about it in terms of corporate marketing, it's a lifestyle brand that has really high goodwill. That is, people associate it with virtue. What happens to it? It becomes a wonderful cover. So the ego can do all sorts of work and cover itself with a cross. By the way, I just did order my first cross in my life. I now own a cross necklace. It's part of my uh, MAGA outfit. I got to look the part. Okay, back to your question. The question is whether you could asshole proof a lifestyle brand. Religions are really hard this way because religions are hyper dualistic. There's the real physical world, and then there's the supernatural world. And the supernatural world is probably the easiest wild card trump card you could ever find. You could be an atheist and use wild card trump cards. What I mean by a wild card trump card is a wild card means you can do whatever you want. Trump card means that whatever you do is completely unassailable. Nothing could challenge it. So assholes run on wild card trump cards. I can do anything, and whatever I do is the best. It's the most right, righteous, and mighty. Once you've got one of them, you're an asshole. You're an absolutist. You're an assolutist once you've got one. And you can get it. Think of a wild card trump card as something that you're issued if you join a religion or a cult or something like that. And it's the lifestyle brand on the back of the card. But it's your card that says, I can do no wrong. I can do anything I want. That's what it's doing. And what it's giving a human being is exactly what any organism would want. They'd want perfect freedom and perfect safety. Nothing that could thwart them, nothing that could harm them. That would be there from the origins of life. But with humans and language and our whole world of concepts, we can grant ourselves them. Okay, so the question is, could you come up with a asshole-proof lifestyle brand? And I think what we call the null hypothesis, that is my operating assumption, is that you couldn't. That there's no way you could asshole-proof a lifestyle brand. Couldn't be done. Now I'm trying to figure out whether you can. That is, I want to. It's what we call a null hypothesis. Is I want to assume it can't be done, and why? Because it hasn't really been tried before to asshole-proof a lifestyle brand or religion. And why not? Because when they're formed, it's a lot like puppy love. It's like your first high school romance. That is, you are so excited about having found the truth or found the perfect bond that you can't imagine it going wrong. If you think back to your first enthusiastic infatuation relationship that lasted maybe a few weeks, or just getting ready for a wedding, you wouldn't want to, you can't begin to imagine it going wrong. So if you start from the assumption that it will go wrong, that our religion will become new cover for assholes, it might give you a way to do it. So how should organized religion wrangle the ego? Let me get a little more specific about that. I've used this analogy before. I'll use it again. So a guy goes to a Marvel comic movie. He goes to see Iron Man, and it gives him hair boners. It gives him hair boners, meaning that he gets goosebumps. Piloerection is what they call it. To see Iron Man, and then at the end of the movie, when he's just in a tizzy of excitement, the usher comes out and say, "You like that movie?" I said, "Yeah, I liked it a lot." You want to see more of them? Yeah. Well, if you want to see more, and you like if that was exciting for you, then do this. Pretend that you've got to believe that it's real, that Iron Man is real. And you have to go out in the world and tell the world that he's real. That's a lot like what goes on in religion. To me, the way to exercise one's ego is to exercise it fully and then zip up after. I've been making this point for years. This is about strategic gullibility, optimal illusion, safe escapism, idsercise, off-jerking. Those are all terms for exercising your ego, okay? And the way to do it safely is to take your flights of fancy, but always with a return ticket to reality secure in your heart pocket. That's my guess at how to do it right. So I've been to death metal concerts, I've been to Trump rallies, and the only difference is that after the death metal concert, people zip up and get back to reality. After the Trump rally, they're like the guy who's was at Iron Man. They feel like they've seen something more real than reality, that they've seen the light, that they've had an epiphany, that they've woken up. The irony is that, yeah, I wake up every day, but I'm tired by that night. There is no waking up in some kind of absolute way. I mean, you take all the meth you want and you're still going to fall asleep. So, I once was lost, but now I'm blind is the problem. So what should organized religion do to wrangle the ego? Try this out. Suppose you went to church and it was like all the best production values. You really rev the shit out of your spirit and your sense of glory that you are among the chosen. But the whole thing's done with a kind of a wink. And afterwards, the guy said, "I'm glad you enjoyed that relief. Now let's get back to what we believe. We believe in scientific progress. We believe in praying not to some Lord who loves us so we can have the slove of Jesus, but to reality. And we shall hold no God higher than reality, not even ourselves. As we won't slove ourselves more than we love reality. It would be a religion that would actually distinguish between belief and relief. I believe in our faith, in our religion. I believe in scientific progress, in getting in intimacy with reality as it is. Is that a marketable religion? Almost. We don't know. It's kind of there in the Unitarian Universalists. Kind of, not quite. I think you'd have to be more ironic to make it really work. And then in another way, it's exactly what we've got. It's the most popular form of religion. It's giving organized religion a hell of a run for its money. Where do we get what I just described? Where you get completely swallowed up in a hair boner, piloerection, self-love joy fest, And then afterwards, you get back to reality. TV, video games. I don't think we're that far from it. Is it a religion? Does it create a unified society? This may be the more tragic aspect of it. I assume that it takes a certain degree of naivete to galvanize a movement, and that naivete will ultimately undermine it. That is, you have to be gullible to join a movement that has real leverage at the social level. And tragically, that gullibility will undermine it. So I have compassion for the Trumpists because I was like them. To a milder degree, I was like that. When I joined the commune where I lived for 7 years, 1,400 people, it was, it was the joy of a MAGA member. I think what we were after was cleaner than what they were after, but my cultish enthusiasm for this thing, I don't think it was exactly a cult. We were too ironic for that. We were good folk too. We were good and humble folk for the most part, but boy, did I get cultish about it, and a lot of us did. Well, our naivete in thinking that we could create one from scratch that would be better than the ones that had come before it. That's exactly the puppy love I was just talking about when I said that organized religions haven't tried to wrangle the ego. What it takes to wrangle the ego is recursion. You have to remember that whatever you say in your favor is also going to end up working against you. So when someone does that whole humble brag thing of saying, I'm superior because I'm humble, or people like me who believe in equality are superior, any of those things, if you're saying it with a wink, you recognize the problem with it. Yeah, so anyway, all I can say is on the back burner, I have been long interested in whether you could do a organized anything that wrangles the ego. I think the heart of it, Anne, is irony. You have to be able to wink. You have to be able to wink at your own confidence. You have to be able to know that you are blowing smoke up your ass a little bit in order to have that motivation and not be thrown off by that motivation. It's complicated, but it's fascinating. I thank you for bringing that up. That may have been more of an answer or more of a squirrely answer all over the place than you wanted, but there it was. Maybe it is the belief or reassurance that someone has all the answers. Surely that is what I think that's what that credinomics thing has been all about for me, which is shopping among interpretations is exhausting. It would be nice to subscribe to something that I knew was going to reliably give me the best interpretations. And that's what I got on the commune, and that's what the MAGA people are getting. Let's see. So I think that's very satisfying. One version of it that's come to me is, I'm fucking this up. I don't know what to do. Someone else take over. I don't have what it takes. Or another version of it is, I don't know what I want. I guess I'll have what they're having. Those would be standard. And boy, I can understand why people would be like that. Why we would be like that, because I've been like that. I know what it's like to not, to feel that way. There's a gospel song I love that's like this. It's by Winans Phase 3. I used to play it on the first day of psych class. It's the Winans are a fabulous black gospel family, and the song is called "Take Me." I think. Let's see, Phase Winans Phase 2. It's all right. Send me. If you get a chance, listen to this song. It's from the 1990s. There's a kind of a panicked sound to it, and it's at the same time a bravery. It's an anxious song, and yet highly charged. Like I surrender into whatever you want me to do. Even if my own mother says no, I'll go. I want to be one with Christ. It's a great one for picking up on this feeling like, I don't know what to do. Um, I want someone who's got all the answers. And I think it's been a major driver in philosophy for all these years. That's why I think we keep on cycling through versions of completeness. Like, this is the perspective anybody needs anywhere in the universe for now and forever. This is the whole picture perspective. That appetite is huge in us. Okay, I've been to yes, I went to one. I went to one Trump rally in Tupelo, Mississippi. This one was when I was good buddies with a flight attendant for Southwest Airlines, and she got me a free ticket. And I went down there, and I made a mistake. I was there for the whole day, but then I went away for a little while, and by the time I got back, they weren't taking anybody else indoors. So I was outside when he was actually speaking inside. But the whole thing was playing on a giant screen, and I was hanging out with a bunch of the Trumpies out there. Tupelo, Mississippi, that was where Elvis Presley was born. I went to his home during the day. It was a wonderful time. I would go back again. And yeah, what I was watching was that this way in which people, they came out definitely thinking they had seen something more important than reality. But there was another thing going on, and I hadn't actually thought about this until right now. People were leaving the rally early, and I was watching them as they're leaving, and they're not especially inspired. So there's another half to what goes on in religion where you just go through the motions. This has been on my mind this week too. So imagine this move. I'm trying to figure it out. I've actually asked one of my friends who's much more steeped in formal logic how you'd play this out. This is, you say, Christianity is good. I'm good. Therefore, I'm Christian. And now the next part of this is, I'm Christian. Therefore, I'm good. Therefore, anything I do is good. So therefore, being unchristian is good. There's a kind of a reversal. What are you talking about? You extract one or two ritual objects from the interaction. So you start with a cosmology, like Trumpist cosmology. Then you grab one ritual object off of that cosmology, like a red hat. And then you wear that red hat, and the rest of it doesn't matter to you at all. You're just in it for the ritual garb. Remember earlier I was making a distinction between belief and relief? There's honest relief and dishonest relief. So we talk about true believers. I think they're actually fairly rare. What we're mostly talking about is honest and dishonest relievers. We're mostly talking about dishonest relievers. An honest reliever is someone who says, yeah, I wear the team jersey. I'm a member of this lifestyle brand. It doesn't make me exceptional. I'm not a better person because I happen to wear this stuff. I've mentioned this before as something I encountered in China. Mainland China. I had friends there who said, yeah, of course I'm a member of the Communist Party. You kind of have to be to get around here. I've taken courses in Marxism. I don't think any of it bears on how we think about the economy or anything. It's just a team jersey. We wear it. Every team's got one. And then the dishonest reliever is someone who says, yeah, my cross is bigger than your cross. And it means that I'm entitled to all sorts of things. My team jersey is bigger or more important than your team jersey. That's what we mean. That's what a true believer, I think, really is. There are some true believers, but they're rare. Why would you go to all the trouble of making the sacrifices for self-love when you could just go through the motions and get all the self-love you need out of that? Why would you need to do anything more than wear the team jersey? Why? I mean, yeah, in general, what people would want is, I had a word for it, self-reassureness. Self-reassureness was a word I coined this week. It's absolute certainty about one's self-reassuring, self-conveniencing opinion. I got to this by thinking about some friends who consider themselves very rational for being able to make a argument that justifies the least amount of compromise on their part and the most amount of compromise for everyone else. You could say that all you're getting from the Trumpists is that. Whether, whatever their arguments for it, it's always stuff that calls for no sacrifice from them. When you think about what's going on with the anti-abortion business or the LGBTQ bathroom stuff, just think of what it requires of them. Nothing. They get all the benefits of scorning bad behavior, and they have no sacrifice to make themselves. And then at the extreme, you get the version of this is just the status of hypocrisy, which I made a magnificent Mike video about this morning. We have wasted 10 years exposing the hypocrisy of the Trumpists, when in fact hypocrisy is a status symbol for Trumpists. It's a badge of honor. It's high status to be able to get away with hypocrisy. Don't know what to do about it, but at least I don't want to feel all impressed that I was able to catch them in some hypocrisy. That never works. To them, it's a win. And to their audience, it's a win. If Trump is exposed in the Epstein files, I bet it makes zero difference to his popularity. None whatsoever. There is an argument that the Trumpists, who did I see this from? One of the pundits, one of the smarter pundits, points out that the Trumpists were the reverse. Oh, it was one of the pollsters on CNN. In the old days, it was liberal. No, it was Scaramucci. He's a social liberal and a fiscal conservative, and he's arguing that the Trumpists are fiscal liberals. They want all the handouts, and they're socially conservative. And I don't think that's quite true. They're not socially conservative. They're hypocritically socially conservative. That is, their power comes from policing the world without having to police them. That they're blaring the police siren so loud it drowns out any reverse accusations is their power. And no wonder they would enjoy that. So, yes, and you say trauma porn, I call it scornography. So scornography is the source of hypocrisy. It's a great fuel for it. It's most of what I ever get from Trumpists, which is if you criticize them in any way, they lash out at you tenfold, as if from a position of moral high ground, which they don't have, they don't care about earning, they don't need to. They can simply proclaim it for themselves that they care about something that actually they don't care about at all. And I made a video this last week in which I said the secret to our power, this is me as magnificent Mike saying the secret is that if you ever feel cornered by a liberal, just start blaring your police siren at them because they are so fucking lousy at fighting. They're so busy defending their virtue that you can just run all over them. The socially liberal, fiscally conservative came from the Koch brothers' Libertarian magazine in the 1970s. There is that, and I get that. And here's something else I quoted this, I came up with this week. I'm a fibertarian. I demand total liberty to make shit up so I'm never imprisoned by reality. So, yeah, the Koch brothers and their libertarian, what is libertarian offering? It is offering the ultimate candy, which is that for the rich, what it is they win if there are no rules. And for the poor, it's the sense that they could play by no rules, that there would be no rules. One thing I do challenge libertarians with, these are not leaders, but the followers, the enthusiasts, which is, all right, so you made it easier for yourself. You don't have to follow any rules. Why the fuck aren't you rich? What's wrong with you? You just gave yourself way more freedom than everybody else has. It's like you're running with no weight hanging off of you, and this is the best you can do, you lame ass loser libertarian. You're supposed to have won because you're not playing by the rules. It doesn't win them over, but it doesn't. Who knows what it does? Which Freud identified as? Oh, which? Yeah, Toto. Now, can you say a little bit more about? I just want to make sure I know which thing you're following up on. Which is what I'm asking. The federal government is the source of U.S. dollar, and we can't pay our taxes and net save U.S. dollars unless the government gives us those U.S. dollars. Federal government has to be liberally fiscal. Um, I think that's more than I can follow at the moment. Um, but Michael, run it by me another time. Oh, okay. All right. Trump does that to the press. It's how he keeps reality away. That's right. That's right. Um, and what we're seeing is that's been unleashed on the world. I mean, that's why we're in real trouble now. It's not Trump's going to die, but now anybody can do that thing. Um, right. So yes, you're right, Rev Walt. They can always make the argument. Yeah, the constraints haven't been taken off of me completely enough. Um, they can always say, "Yeah, I'm still under it." I did get an amazing troll comment the other day from someone who really said that Trump was bullied mercilessly. That they believe this stuff is just amazing. And yet I can sort of see it. To get your jollies. Uh, yes, it's a perversion. Policing for the power structure. Yes. Okay. Good. Um, right. This is the power of moral authority. So remember what I said is if you anything that becomes a virtue that is interpreted as a virtue becomes a way of bullying. And it's fun to watch it finally dissipate, but the stuff on the left like this was getting bad and was unworkable. And I'm glad to see that you don't hear it much anymore. You do on the fringe. But be nice, don't be judgmental. The stuff that we were championing, it almost instantly became pure bullying. What I called intimidation, the way of bullying by saying be nice. Narcissism, I called it, which is the narcissism of saying be nice to anyone who disappoints you. Um, I still get some in a way because I think I provoke a lot of it. I'm so adamant against that. Um, uh, so and I'm trying something new with it these days. So people do a kind of sucker punch with me. It seems to me like a sucker punch. They would deny it. But here would be a standard move. If I feel threatened by Jeremy, or by if someone feels threatened by you, it doesn't matter who this is. Let me do it where I'm someone who feels threatened by someone. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay down the moral law, and uh, they are no longer allowed to say anything that ruffles me. And since I'm now taking charge, because I believe in justice and they did something unfair or unjust, I am now policing. And I can say anything insulting about them. I can accuse them of whatever. But if they do it back to me, they're doing it to the guy who just pulled up, the police car who just pulled up and is running the show now. So that's a standard move. And the question for me lately has been, what do you do in response to that? Well, if someone has decided that everything I'm doing has the ulterior motive of just trying to win, or I'm a bully or something like that, there's really nothing left to say to that person because they've already shown that whatever I say is thoroughly discounted by that assumption. Um, I want to say something on the way out the door, but actually, what I'm trying these days is a clean break. No sucker punch. Uh, they're entitled to that opinion of me. They could be right about me. I keep my own counsel. I don't keep the counsel of someone who automatically assumes that about me because they're insulted. I was insulting. Because they felt ashamed, I was shaming them on purpose to make them feel bad. I don't. They're welcome to think that it could be true, but I'm done, and I wish them well elsewhere. And yeah, I So that's an interesting discipline for me because I have a tendency to want to say something that's a sucker punch out the way on the way out the door when someone has gone that way. Uh, what I call the narcissism move. Um, One thing I've tried this last week was also when someone said, "Please don't contact me again." His first move was to say, "I don't appreciate your insults." No question about whether there was insults or just critique in there, but he decided they're insults and he said, I don't appreciate it. I sent him a few more comments. He said, please don't contact me again. And my response was, okay, but if you ever want to contact me, I'm here. So trying to figure out new clean breaks. Now, I'm not trying this stuff with the Trumpists. With the Trumpists, I actually want to put in as many last digs as I can because I could die at their expense. But other than at their hand. But otherwise, I'm interested in the clean breaks these days. Okay, let's see where we are. We're winding down soon. You'll be relieved to know. Um, let's see. So Michael said, yeah, my economic studies are definitely of the mainstream. Yeah, I think you mean off the mainstream and usually backwards of what okay. Michael, that all may be well and all that, and you may be an outsider or not. I'm not sure about that, but I would like to understand what the concept is when you got it. And I don't get it from this comment. The federal government is the source of the U.S. dollar, and we can't pay our taxes or net save U.S. dollars unless the government gives us those U.S. dollars. Here's a kind of completeness that I want to warn about. In a way, it was related to that thing we talked about earlier around culture stoking us to become um, to invest heavily in sex, love, romance. In general, I find the cabal version of things where uh, problematic. I don't get much of a I don't gain as much insight from saying, yeah, it's these people. I don't know if this is true across the board. I mean, I definitely see the Trumpists as a cabal, but I think the general move around capitalism doesn't work for me, where it's all because of this or that source of it. I think this started for me early on. I started to realize that I didn't have much use for the if good people like me were in charge of the world, we'd make it go round better. Um, it's satisfying. It can be relief. It can be affirming to feel like we are the victims of a system that was created by subhumans or something like that. I'm really interested in subhumans, as you know, Michael. Um, and I mean, I got a lot out of those David Graeber books about how the system ended up getting run the way it is and how problematic it is. Um, Here's another piece that's related, though maybe MMT. I don't think I know what MMT is. Someone unpack MMT. Um, we need a hybrid system, and then the question becomes, why don't we have one? Remember, I'm not very interested if what I would do if I were in charge of the world. It doesn't generally work well to do that. It is useful to know what our goals are, but I guess I'm still stuck on trying to figure out what's the most we can do with what we're dealt, including that people tend to corrupt systems um, for reassurance. Nobody leaves reassurance on the table. So once again, what we talked about as relates to religion also applies to economies. If there is a economic system that doesn't end up corrupted, that's the challenge, and it's a harder challenge. And I don't want to give up on trying to figure out what that hybrid. What I'm talking about, Dana, here is an asshole-proof system. What could you do to asshole-proof a system? Uh, what can we do to better asshole-proof a system? Systems of checks and balances are what I think we're talking about. A hybrid system is a system of checks and balances. What can we do to make checks and balances more robust without making them so rigid that they don't work? Um, that's the question that life has been struggling with all along. not consciously. Um, yeah, it's related to psychoproctology. The way I think of it is that you want a free market, you want a free economy, but you don't. But the way I put it, for example, in my book years ago, was um, in a free society, you don't get to tell people how they have to live, but you still have to put a leash on the assholes, or else it won't remain a free society. So that's why I got interested in psychoproctology. That's why I abandoned what you could call positive moral philosophy, what everybody should do on the count of three. I'm much more interested in negative uh, morality. And I think of it like a flat earth view of the world, which is it's a free society. You go anywhere you want. Stay away from these borders. This is where you could tip us all off the flat earth. That is, you got a great big playground. Be what apparently there's lots of perfectly decent ways to live in this world, or decent enough ways to live. What distinguishes an absolutist, and how do you stop them and prevent them? That's where I'm interested, and I think that applies to politics, the allocation of power, as much as the allocation of resources, economics, and also relates very much to the uh, hermeneutics. Remember, I coined the term hermenology for uh, the study of the origins, the emergence and nature of interpretation. But hermeneutics is how to interpret. So you could say I'm kind of interested in a negative in uh, negative hermeneutics. There's interpret however you want. I'm not going to tell you how you should interpret the world. There is no one way to do that. But this is not how. This is how to. But don't interpret this way. I'm making this up, and I'm also running on fumes because we've been at it a while, and I'll end in just a minute here. But basically, don't grant yourself one of them wild card trump cards. That's really all I'm talking about here. Is forget about the lifestyle brand on the back of the card. Just don't grant yourself one of them. And if you're around people, don't let yourself have one, and don't let other people have one, and don't trump other people's wild card trump card with your wild card trump card. That's kind of what we're trying to. That's kind of what I'm trying to figure out how to do, and what I love as a fruitful exercise in futility. That is, I don't think we'll ever come up with a completely a completely asshole proof system, but I think it's worth speculating about in these perhaps the final days of civilization. What we should have, what we could, civilization could end with us finally figuring out what question we needed to answer to avoid the ending of civilization. It could be like that. All right, we're really winding down now. Let's see. We are too nice to assholes when they test boundaries, and that's how they collect power. I think we need to learn to less forgiving in the early stages somehow. Amen. Amen. That's exactly what I've been on about. Is that we need three basic tools in our repertoire. One of them is connecting human to human. Another is carving someone a new asshole when they refuse to connect human to human, and the other is disengaging with them. Now we have a economic form forming in our midst. I just want to mark it because this is going to be important. Historians are going to look back on this day when Toto Now, Michael de Souza Cruz, and maybe Dana Power came up with the system that actually saves civilization. I hope you don't mind the ribbing, and I hope you come up with one. um, I don't know what that system is. I might well join you if you come up with it. I would love to hear about it. I think a lot in terms of microeconomics more than macro, and so maybe Michael, when you guys the cabal of you three get together, how are you gonna get together? Do you even know each other's names? Michael de Souza Cruz, he's up front with his name. Uh, on it, boss. Good. Okay, you guys get on it. You figure it out, and then will you present it at one of these next meetings? Okay, and then will you guys also email me if you want to do a conversation covering any of this stuff, where we actually talk to each other. It doesn't have to be a huge number of us. It could just be a few. In fact, some of the best cabals in history were just one or two or three people, as long as they were geniuses like us. If you'll have me in your group, you know what? You guys could go off and start your own group, and then you could save the fiscal world and also talk catty shit about me behind my back. It's okay. You could do that. Everybody put your cards back in your pockets. All right, there we go. All right. I think that's probably it for today. I love that we get to do this. I love that some of you at least like that we get to do this, and some of you even love it. Michael de Souza Cruz said that he loved me, and the feeling's mutual, Michael. And I'm not sure it's still there for you because I just said something slightly dissy. But okay, no Jeremy's allowed in your new group. Okay, get that cabal going. Come back to us. Report out of your subcommittee, and then we will have solved reality once and for all. Which is, let's face it, that's what we really need to do. See you guys soon.